Hello Year 6, happy Friday, the last day of the week, and the end of our second week of doing your learning this way. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, hopefully you found it helpful, and remember, if you have any suggestions for next week or the week after of things that we could learn about, so obviously we've had SeaWorld, we've had a new world through a doorway, anything interesting like that, please let Mr. Jobber or I know, and then we might be able to plan some learning around that. But today we're going to be finishing off our writing. We're going to be writing about when your character has gone through the door and they're now into this unusual, amazing, really interesting world. I'm now going to show you how I'm going to write my one. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my plan that Mr. Jobber would have completed with you on Tuesday. Then I'm going to think about what I want to include in my writing, the features, the different writing techniques, and then I'm going to have a go at writing mine, and then we'll discuss that together. So hopefully now you can see my plan on your screen, and we're going to run through the things that I'm going to use for my plan today to help me with my writing. Please see how we're just looking at section 2, and that's because we would have done section 1 yesterday with Mr. Jobber. If you didn't do your writing yesterday, for whatever reason, that's okay. However, today I would advise you just start on section 2 and just write about your character discovering the world. So the first thing we can see is about waterfalls, and this is unusual because the waterfalls are not going to flow down, they're going to flow up into the sky, and when they reach the sky they're going to vaporize into like a fog or a cloud or a mist, and they're going to change colors a bit like the colors from a rainbow potentially, and it's going to be something that's going to amaze my character, and the colours are going to almost be moving as if they're dancing to an unknown symphony, so a song that I don't know, a wonderful piece of music that I don't recognise. There's also going to be, I'm going to be in a huge open space with long green grass, and there's going to be a singular path down the middle. Then I'm going to talk about how my character is going to be me, because it's in the first person, is amazed and almost forgets about time and just stands there and just takes in this beauty and this wonderful landscape that he's amazed by. Also up in the distance of the sky there's going to be a planet, but it's going to be a planet that seems so close to Earth or wherever my character now is, so potentially it's not Earth if there's this planet that's this close, and it's going to be huge and it's going to take up most of the sky. And the final thing I'm going to talk about in my writing is in the distance, I'm going to link back to Mr. Jobber's paragraph. I'm going to see the tree, which we saw a silhouette of the tree on the door, and there's whispers coming from this tree, which again we heard whispers in Mr. Jobber's paragraph, and those whispers are going to be calling and almost pulling my character towards the tree, and then my paragraph's going to finish off with my character deciding to not turn back and go back home through the door, but instead to go on an adventure towards the tree. So today I'm going to try and use figurative language in my writing to help create an image in the reader's mind of my unusual world, and I'm going to use similes, metaphors and personification. Now these are all things that we've practiced before in school, in year 6 in fact, but we'll go over them really quickly. So an example of a simile is the pond was like a shiny round coin. Because I'm saying that the pond was like a coin, I'm using the word like, which makes it a simile. Or I could use the word as. So for example, he ran as fast as a cheetah. So I'm comparing him to a cheetah with the word as. So that's a simile. The second thing I'm going to try and use is a metaphor. I could say the snow is a white blanket. And that's a metaphor because I'm calling the snow a white blanket when it's not actually a white blanket. But again, it helps to create an image in the reader's mind. And the final thing I'm going to try and use is personification. An example of that is the branches of the tree danced in the wind. Now that's personification because I'm saying that the branches of the tree are dancing when in fact trees can't dance, only people can dance. And I'm now going to try and start off my writing. I'm not going to write all of it, I'll write maybe the first 2 or 3 sentences, then I'll check it, and then I'll show you the rest of my writing on the computer. But you can look out, I probably will make some mistakes in the first 3 sentences, so let's see if you can spot them before I do, okay? So I want to start with talking about when I went through the door, I was now in this bright place, so I want to think about how that would affect me, how I could describe that. one thing that I know is whenever, if I'm in somewhere dark and I walk outside, the first thing I notice is my eyes. I have to adjust to the light, so I might talk about that. So. If you want, you can pause it now and you can try and see if you can spot them first. I'll give you a clue. There are at least 3 mistakes. I may have made some extra ones, not on purpose, but let's have a look through. So pause it now if you'd like to. Right, if you paused it, did you find my mistakes? Were there more than 3? Let's find out. So as my eyes adjust to the bright light, I notice that the temperature, so here I can see this verb is in the present tense and this verb is in the past tense. So something must be wrong because I wouldn't normally have 2 different tenses like that. But I know that this piece of writing is going to be in the past tense because it's already happened. So this is my first mistake. As my eyes adjusted, I'll just edit in an ED. As my eyes adjusted to the bright light, I noticed that the temperature had changed from cold to the warm. There should be a H on here, warmth of a summer's day. And the final mistake is here. The day belongs to the summer, therefore I need an apostrophe just before the S, and it's an apostrophe for possession because the day belongs to the summer. I hope there are not any more mistakes. If there are, I will put a note in the video when I watch it back. But what I'm going to do now, Year 6, is I'm going to show you the rest of my writing on the computer and we'll talk through it that way. So Year 6, so I've now written the rest of my writing, which hopefully you can see on your computer, and I've split mine over 2 paragraphs. You don't have to do that, you can have 1 or 2, it's up to you. You could have more than that if you wanted as well, but I've chosen to do 2 paragraphs from my first draft. I'm going to read it through to you now, and then we'll go through to see how I used simile, metaphor and personification. And whilst I'm reading it, you can have a look out to see if you can find them. As my eyes adjusted to the now bright light, I noticed that the temperature had changed from a cold to the warmth of a summer's day. I was stood in the middle of a vast field of knee-high grass. To my right was a stream that seemed to rise upwards towards the sky, creating waterfalls running up towards the clouds. As the water met the sky, it turned to a mist, taking on rich colours of reds and yellows that lit up the sky. I found myself rooted to the spot like a statue, utterly hypnotised by what I was witnessing. Beyond the colours, a planet sat so low that it took up half of the sky, and it felt as though I could reach up and touch it. How much time had I spent staring in amazement, I could not say, but eventually I was able to tear my gaze away from the sky above and survey this world that I had stumbled across. A single tree, unlike anything I had ever seen before, both in shape and size, stood proudly at the foot of the hill. Then again, I heard the whispers, louder this time, calling me. I knew that I should turn back, go through the door and return to the beach, but where would the adventure be in that? By now, the origin of the whispers was clear. I started down the hill towards the tree. So that's the end of my writing, and Mr. Jobber also helped me with, and let's see if we can now find simile, metaphor and personification. If you want to pause now and have a look yourself, you can, and then we'll go through them in a moment. So for a simile, in the first paragraph, the sentence that begins with, I found myself rooted to the spot like a statue. That word like makes it a simile because I'm saying that I was stood there like a statue, and that tells the reader how still I was and motionless I was. So I've used the word like to compare myself to a statue. At the end of that paragraph, in the next sentence, I've said, beyond the colours, a planet sat so low that it took up half of the sky. So I've said that this planet took up half of the sky. Now this planet didn't actually take up half of the sky, that's just me describing it as if it did that, therefore I've used a metaphor. And finally, in the second paragraph, I've written about the tree that it stood proudly at the foot of a hill. Now, trees can't actually stand up like humans can, therefore I've used personification. So I have been successful in using all 3 of those. In your writing today, I want you to see if you can use all 3 of them. feel free to pause the video with my writing on the screen, and you can use it to help you while you're writing yours. Don't forget to keep referring back to your plan, and when you finished it, don't forget to keep checking to make sure that there's no way you can improve it, or you haven't made any spelling mistakes or forgot any punctuation. I can't wait to see what your writing's like. Please email it into the Year 6 email, and then have a lovely weekend, and Mr. Jobber and I will see you next week.